Let me just get us back open again, Chair. Bear with me.
I've got one announcement to make when we do. I'll wait till you open again. She's moving the item 16.
We've confirmed that we are streaming again, Chair. I'll just let Tracy back in and
Tracy
Jan.
back. Yeah.
Let Tracy in and let me get Jan back in as well. Okay. Chair.
We're all back in and hopefully the public are back with us again. What I'm going to say now is item 16 on your agenda, which is the Fire Strategic Alliance update. I'm going to move that to the next item because our officer does have another engagement later and has asked us to move this forward. So item 16 now will come in front of item 9. So I'll now move and pass on to Guy, if I may.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair. Greatly appreciated your flexibility today. I'd ask members to note the report. The four key areas of the Alliance, including the communication strategy, have all benefited from reallocation of senior responsible owners. So Assistant Chief Fire Officer Dan Quinn is now for Community Risk Management Plan. Assistant Chief Fire Officer John Price is for procurement. Assistant Chief Fire Officer Simon Hardiman for ICT, and Temporary Deputy Chief Fire Officer Keith Chance is for fire control. All those appointments are now in place, and I believe most have actually had their project meetings since the new year turned. Each project will now have a project working group, which will be chaired by these senior responsible owners. The pandemic obviously has had an impact throughout the year, but through new ways of working and by embedding these and also evolving, we're hopeful of supporting the delivery of the Alliance objectives as we become more and more used to working in this new world. The first project I'll take you on to is fire control. Present, an optional appraisal reviewing the 16 options currently is being shortlisted down, and we anticipate that to be completed by early 21, with the preferred option going to the programme delivery board and then on to the governance board before finally being brought back as a business case for both fire authorities, hopefully by April 2021. The IRMP, which you may have seen me refer to as the Community Risk Management Plan. Both Shropshire's was approved at the authority meeting, obviously in December, and Hereford and Worcester's is going through the same process this month. We will be making minor amendments to it, but also including a change of title, where the Integrated Risk Management Plan will become the Community Risk Management Plan, entitled Making Shropshire Safer. Which is obviously our key, the vision as we move forward into the future. The reason behind the community risk management change is that NFCC guidance we anticipate in the next year will make that title the go-to title rather than Integrated Risk Management Plan. So it's basically future-proofing the title of the document, but the contents do not change at all. The ICT project. Again, the project board has been established, and that involves Jean Cole from Hereford and Worcester, Peter Chatwin from Hereford and Worcester, and Sally Edwards from here in Shropshire. That project board is overseeing the use for the single wide area network project, which is looking at combining two infrastructures, which is a challenge, but Mark Jarvis, the Alliance Change Manager, is producing a specification and preparing a tender process to progress this further in the not too distant future. We also have the help desk systems. The contract has now been awarded to a supplier, so work is actually underway to implement this across both services, so progress made there. And finally, software analysis. Software review has been completed, and a software strategy is being created, which will bring priorities and allow budgets to be identified and allocated, with a suitable plan of action drawn up. Joint specifications will need to be drawn up across both services to ensure that the scope is not too restricted as we move forward. And a good example of this is the Leo online learning system that we use in Shropshire. Hereford and Worcester have seen the usability of it, identified it as something they would like, and we're now moving on to that as a joint product venture. So again, a good example. The next project, procurement. Both services are working to a procurement plan. And John Price recently chaired a meeting of all key stakeholders across the Alliance to chart activity against 19 procurement areas. These meetings will continue throughout the year, regularly timetabled in. It should be noted that actually procurement does overlap with areas such as ICT, and where this is the case, the ICT project will govern and look after the ICT elements of procurement. They won't fall under the procurement project. So again, procurement is benefiting from that structure. Finally, the comms strategy that was requested in February, which has now been completed and drafted for the Alliance Programme Delivery Board meeting in February, where that will be scrutinised and signed off. In summary, the Alliance Programme Delivery Board will continue to scrutinise and update from all reports and projects in the Alliance plan. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I will throw it open for members to comment. I would say myself that I think it's been very apt that we now have a situation where the senior management of both services now are basically almost all in place, which gives us the opportunity now to move forward with the new team and obviously deliver on the aspects that we've got. Very, very important. And thanks very much for your hard work on this. Very, very much. We're all very, very interested in the development of this, because it is how we see the future, working very closely with our neighbours, and we do work closely already. But there are opportunities for the future which have been identified. So now with the senior management team in place, I'm looking forward to the next meeting when we can see where we go next. So thanks very much indeed for that, Guy. Further comments from members, please. Otherwise, I'll ask for a proposer and a seconder. We appear to be okay. So would you have a proposer and a seconder for this item, please? That this be noted. Okay, John Thompson's proposed.
I'll second.
Okay, you got that, Lynn?
So is that Councillor Wynne?
Yes, sorry, Paul.
Yes, Councillor Wynne, yeah.
Oh, I should use
Thank you. Chair, could we just check as well before we go forward? I still can't see some members, yourself included, Chair. I don't know if it's just an issue.
I can see myself.
Right, okay.
I'm on the bottom right of my screen.
I can see yours. You're there.
Can you see me?
Okay.
I can see James. That's all.
Apologies. Yeah, I can only see initials for some people, so I'm not sure how we go forward.
I'm looking at Guy, I'm looking at Chris, looking at John, looking at Andrew.
See them.
Top of Peter Adams's head, Keith Roberts, Paul, Kev, Lynn and myself. That's who I can see. So
yeah, and I mean some of those names I can't see, Chair. I think this must be just a technical issue. So
could well be.
So I don't think it's something that's much really likely to be able to be resolved.
No, probably
very fast.
Technology, Paul. Yeah,
indeed. So I think it's just something maybe to bear in mind.
I'll be calling for they will be calling for support or otherwise in a moment, so we'll know that people are there to hear anyway.
Indeed, maybe it's just something for the officers to take back to the IT bonds and see if they can identify any issues.
We'll have to look at it. I know I've got to get back to Salford and Wrekin after this meeting because I've not been online for 9 days now, but there you go. Lynn,
okay, Chair.
Call for
I'll do the vote now, Chair. Apologies for that. Councillor Adams.
As this is a note paper for notes, do we actually need to take a vote on a noted paper?
Just say on my paperwork that we have to, but
Paul.
I suppose what it does for officers is if members have a vote, then it obviously shows officers that that the members support the proposals, and gives them a direction, obviously, in which to continue. If nothing else, yeah. I mean, obviously, it's almost giving the officers that consent and that approval to continue on the basis as set out and as proposed within the report.
Okay.
Not specifically, but I suppose impliedly or generally.
Rod's indicated to speak. I see Rod.
Sorry, Chair. Loath as I am to disagree with my learned legal friend, I don't think we don't need a vote for a note. It is to keep you aware. What we do is take account of any comments that come up during the meeting. So we would just continue with that track anyway, unless the comments were taking us on a different one. So don't feel obliged to. I don't think you need to feel obliged to do that. It's the decision-making ones we absolutely need a vote for.
Okay. Just on my paperwork, it asked me to call a vote. That's why I did it, sticking to the plan. But if you're happy with that, well, and there's no disagreement, nobody's showing their hand that disagree, we can take it that is ready. Is that okay with you, Lynn?
That's as long as that's okay with our legal advisor and the chief, then that's fine.
Okay, well, that's item 16. So we'll revert back now to the agenda item of number 9, and we'll come back to Lynn.
Thank you, Chair. This is the Fire Authority work plan for 2021-22. This is a report that comes annually to the authority and sets out the scheme of work for the meetings effectively throughout the year. It is the reports that come on a regular basis, so annually and quarterly mainly, and we do have scope to amend the work plan as we go through the year if additional things need to be added. We have carried out a review of the work on last year's work plan, and that has all been completed as set out in section 4 of the report. And the proposed work plan for 2021-22 is attached at the appendix. Members are asked to note the progress against last year's work plan and to approve the work plan for 2021, subject to any amendment or comments they may wish to make.
Okay. Well, we do require a proposal and a seconder for this. And agree. Rod, you want to speak?
Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Apologies, Chair, legacy hand.
Sorry, I've got a note in the meeting chat saying I'd like to speak before this started.
Okay.
It's just to say that although we're having problems with the photo things, I'm also having problems with the sound. It's breaking up and I've got a severe echo on it and I'm having real trouble hearing what's going on. So it's just to let you know that the sound is also deteriorating.
I don't think that's common across the piece, but I don't know the reason for that, obviously. But I do apologise for that if that's a technical issue. John, did you indicate to speak? You're on mute.
No,
I'm just checking things by my end.
No, I'm fine. I think the sound the majority of the time is fine as well.
Okay. Any other comments before we call for this vote then for on the work plan? Appears not, so hand over to you, Lynn. Lynn, hand over to you to conduct the vote. Lynn's gone. Lynn's gone. Can you hear me, Lynn?
Lynn,
I think Chair, as before she had, I think as before, Chair, she's had
Simon there then. If somebody can assist if Lynn's having a problem at the moment by the looks of it.
Yes, Chair, it's Si Hardiman. I'm just trying to dial Lynn back in as we speak, so just bear with me for 2 seconds.
Yeah, we seem to have 1 or 2 issues today, don't we? Are you back with us, Lynn? Lots of shaking of heads going on. Sorry to the public, it isn't our fault.
Blame it on the weather, Chair.
Yes, I blame it on the weather. It's the snow or whatever. Yeah. Or blame it on COVID. Yes.
It's the sun. There's too much sunshine in today.
Is that what it is? I can't see any from where I am. I'm in
here in Wem the sun is shining, so it must be the sun melted. It's the wrong sun.
Yeah. Let's wait for Lynn to join us.
Chairman, if Lynn can't join us, could perhaps Paul take us through as our legal representative?
Chair, I'm back.
Oh, you're back. Oh, well done, Lynn.
She's back. Do you want to conduct the vote then, Lynn? Can't see you there at the moment.
Do we have a proposer and a seconder, Chair? Sorry, I missed all of that then.
Well, you're okay. Well, I'll propose if someone wants to second.
Thank you.
There's David Minery on second.
David Minery second. Okay, we'll call for the vote then, Lynn.
Right. Okay. Councillor Adams.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Blundell.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Carter proposed. Councillor Hartin.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Lavery.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Mellings.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Minery seconded. Councillor Pardy.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Price.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Roberts.
4.
Councillor Thompson.
4.
Thank you. And Councillor Wynne.
4.
Thank you. That's agreed, Chair.
Thank you, Lynn. We'll move to item 10 and to Joanne. This is the revenue budget 21-22 for decision. Joanne.
Thank you, Chair. This paper presents the final revenue budget for 21-22 for consideration and approval. The paper following this one confirms the precept associated with this revenue budget. So as in previous years, if members approve this paper, then they are essentially agreeing the recommendations on the following paper. But for clarity, we will carry out separate roll calls for each set of recommendations.
Okay.
Strategy and Resources Committee was advised in January of the latest developments in funding for next year. And the highlights of that were the grant settlement was announced on the 17th of December. The RSG and rates numbers were lower, but additional grants were awarded for losses in council tax base and rates. So this gave us a net growth of 390,000. Council tax base across the two authorities was confirmed at a growth of 0.3%. This was a lower increase than in previous years, but this is due to more households being afforded council tax support. And the initial estimates on our collection fund deficits were reported at 80,000 deficit. The committee also considered the capital programme and associated debt charges. We've just looked at those in closed session. And a contribution to the major projects reserve was also proposed for the Telford scheme as part of the final budget package, and this further reduced debt charges into future years for our capital projects. In terms of the authority's medium-term financial planning, due to the pandemic, we remain in a position where there's much uncertainty around the years following 21-22. In terms of our local funding, that's funding that we receive via our local authorities, such as rates, collection fund balances and council tax base growth. These will be determined as local authorities reset their strategies in terms of support and collection as we go forward through the pandemic. And in terms of central government, the comprehensive spending review, fair funding review and rates reforms have also been delayed. And we are left again working with a one-year finance settlement, which is a position we don't want to be in again. And also it's frustrating civil servants that are having to repeat this work on setting the finance settlement year on year. So once we get into a more formal multi-year settlement, that will be of great benefit. So therefore, we must advise members again to set a budget for the coming year only and treat future years very much as estimates, which will be updated when we have further information available. On top of page 3 of the report is the position following those developments. After a surplus next year, the current assumptions are showing that we have deficits in the years from 22-23. We've discussed in previous years that there's a number of areas where this could be more favourable, such as reduced capital spend following operational reviews that are due to take place, and also lower than anticipated grant reduction. But we'll continue to carry out scenario planning to look at all possible outcomes and obviously keep bringing those to the authority for consideration. So further development since the committee, our business rates from Shropshire Council and Telford and Wrekin Council have been confirmed. They're slightly higher than the estimates that were included in the settlement. The collection fund balances for council tax and business rates have been confirmed. We have a deficit of 58,000 on the council tax collection fund in the next coming year, and then that needs to be spread across the following 2 years. And on the business rates collection fund, we have deficits reported of 750,000, but grant on rates relief is expected of 745,000 to cover the majority of that deficit, with the balance again being spread over 3 years. So the final settlement has been announced, but we have yet to have it debated in Parliament. We've reviewed the final settlement. There are no changes for the authority as yet. We did announce in the provisional settlement that there would be no pay award payable in 21-22. However, it's still possible that there could be an award made. But because we had lower than anticipated pay awards last year, we do have some available if a pay award is to be awarded. Obviously, if it's any more than that, then we'll need to bring that back to the authority during the coming year. Members are asked to delegate any final adjustments on the budget to the Treasurer in consultation with the Chair and the Vice Chair, just to make any final changes. So members are asked to approve the final revenue budget, which is shown on page 4 of the report. Page 4 of the report, and the associated precept increase of 1.9%, which is detailed in the paper following. And finally, on this paper, it's item 7, members are asked to consider and approve the updated medium-term financial plan and reserve strategy. This is appended to the report. Delegating again any further changes to the Treasurer in consultation with the Chair or the Vice Chair. This document is regularly reviewed in line with any further information received, and we do update our scenario planning as we receive further information. As mentioned earlier, the following paper details the precept increase associated with the budget. A consultation document has been publicised on social media over the last week or so to get any feedback on our proposal to increase the budget by 1.9%. We've had some support on social media and no objections. That increase in precept ensures that we can negotiate some certainty into our planning going forward, and I think it's a strategy that's always served us well to protect the base with the uncertainty that we have coming. And also we can continue to provide an efficient service where we continue to invest any savings that we have into reducing borrowing costs on the capital programme in future years. So in essence, that's the 2 papers covered, but I'm happy to take any questions, Chair.
Yes, I think it's very important, and once again thank officers, particularly yourself, Joe, and your team for the detail that you've given us here, and to show the position that we're in, which is, I'm sure, a lot more favourable than a lot of authorities across the country, but still gives us some concerns that we are okay for the future. We have been prudent for many, many years, and I'm sure we will be in the future. So do I have any questions? Chris, do you want to mention anything at all, being chair of the Strategy Resources?
Yes, please, if I might kick off the discussion. Thanks, Joanne, for the papers and obviously the hard work that the finance team and officers have put into working this up. Obviously much more challenging this year than we're accustomed to, although I think this is the second year in which we've run with a 1-year budget. Brexit and general elections was last year. Obviously COVID is this year, so let's hope some sense of normality will return in terms of financial planning. I will at this point move the recommendations in papers 10 and 11, and in doing so would just reinforce the comments that have been made regarding 22.3 onwards. And whilst it doesn't look very healthy with projected deficits, clearly we're in a situation where there are still a number of uncertainties to work through. But we would hope that once those are worked through, that those deficits will be eliminated. As we know from our work in previous years, we have been very prudent and planned very carefully for the finances of the service. And whilst none of us would want to take, particularly in the current climate, take more in council tax than we absolutely need to, we think that 4p per week increase over and above this year is again a prudent figure to ensure that we can continue to provide the high class fire service that we do going forward. Obviously, we keep all areas of the budget under review. Our reserve strategy has been deliberately set to ensure that we can minimise borrowing costs going forward, and quite clearly with the cost of the Telford project, that will save us quite a bit of money by committing capital reserves to support that project. So whilst it does look a little bit uncertain going forward, I think the sound financial management of the service in recent years has put us in very good stead. And I know that work won't stop simply once the budget for next year has been agreed and put in place. Still a lot more work to do, but hopefully the authority and the public of Shropshire can be confident that we're in reasonable financial shape to respond to any issues and challenges that we face in the future. So thanks again to everyone for their work. And as I say, I'll move both sets of recommendations when we get to the roll call vote stage. Thanks, Chairman.
Thank you, Kevin.
I prefer if I could ask the question if there's no other people asking a question, or after they've asked the question. In other words, ask last.
Well, so Peter's waving at me as well. There's yourself and Peter. So do you want to comment now, Kevin, or you want to wait?
No, Peter, go first, please.
Peter, then. Can't hear you, Peter.
Right. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Jan, and your team for all the hard work. I just want to ask a question about the income. We get some of our income from the rates which are collected by Shropshire Council. And they normally collect a very high proportion of the rates that are issued. If the yield falls, let's say instead of getting 98% of the money in, they only get 97% in. Will this have any material effect on the finances and operations of the Fire and Rescue Service?
If I can, Chair,
yeah.
The collection rate on business rates and council tax is set as the year starts, and if rates are collected higher than the set collection rate, we would enjoy a proportion of the surplus that's collected. But conversely, if the yield is less than the collection rate, we would contribute towards a deficit. As you can see, this year we do have deficits. In previous years, we've had quite healthy surpluses that have been allocated.
In the report, yeah.
So we would have to pay some deficits back. That's why we're in the position we're in now. But the government are actually paying quite a high proportion of that deficit. But once that goes forward and any changes are made to collection rates through the local authorities for future years, then hopefully that surplus deficit switch should start to level out. So I don't know if James has any further information on the explanation I've just given.
James?
Thanks, Chair. No, that explains it perfectly. Fundamentally, it impacts on the following financial year in terms of a surplus or a deficit, and we budget on that basis.
I think the budget set, is it the 5th of March it's due to give his budget to the Chancellor this year? I know it's in early March. Whether he'll make any comments about future years and make it 3 years, I don't know whether we know that or not. We'll have to wait and see. But we'll have to come to Kevin now. There's nobody else's hand in the air I can see.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. I'm really going back to 5A because I missed my chance. That's why I've asked the question last, if that's okay with you, Chair.
Yeah.
It's simply that over the past 12 months or so, I've noticed that when we're given financial information, it's not as detailed as it used to be. if you remember, I brought up the problem with the expensive officers' uniforms, that sort of thing. Well, we don't seem to be getting that detail anymore, and I was just wondering why we don't.
If I can, Chair,
Yes.
I do remember the comments that we had around the uniforms. Those would be on a financial performance paper, which should offer some detail around the variance that is reported. Performance papers, if it's felt that there is more information required, we can certainly provide more information, but these papers would be of a higher level, in which case there wouldn't be so much detail. But I do take the point, and if there's any more information required, we will certainly provide that.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Karen. Okay, well, we've got a recommendation from Chris to approve these minutes. I'm prepared to second that. Lynn, do you want to do a roll call?
Thank you, Chair. So I'm going to have
This
to
is
do
for item 10, then we'll repeat it for item 11.
Yes, Chair. So Councillor Adams.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Blundell. Thank you. Councillor Carton, seconded.
Yeah.
Councillor Hartin.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Lavery.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Mellings proposed. Councillor Minery.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Pardy.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Price.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Roberts.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
For.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Wynne.
For.
Thank you. So item 10 is agreed, Chair.
Okay,
and I'll
we'll
now
move to
do
item 11, and we'll do a similar roll call now for item 11.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Councillor Adams.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Blundell. Thank you. Councillor Carter, seconded.
Yeah.
Councillor Hartin.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Lavery.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Mellings proposed. Councillor Minery.
For.
Thank